Today, I want to focus on the secrets to success. These apply universally to any business or any complex task you have to do. First of all, you have to have a procedure that is repeatable that you use to ensure the success every time you go about doing something. When I was a Navy pilot flying a C-2 off of aircraft carriers in the Mediterranean, we had very specific procedures that ensured a successful landing every time and provided for fast-paced operations where we were landing one airplane on the aircraft carrier every 40 seconds. The other secret to success is focus. You must be focused on the task at hand, and that focus changes throughout the process. Let's go back to our aviation example. I was a C-2 pilot carrying passengers and cargo from Sicily out to aircraft carriers in the Mediterranean. We had very specific procedures and very specific focus. On the way out to the ship, we were at 20,000 feet. The autopilot was keeping the aircraft on altitude and in the correct direction that we set it in, and we were not very focused. We focused on a wide variety of things. We were looking out the cockpit windows for any aircraft that were in our flight path. We were checking the weather as we went, and as we got nearer the ship, we were scanning the horizon for the ship. We had an instrument panel with a couple of dozen instruments. We were scanning all those instruments, not very rapidly because nothing very special was going on. As we approached the ship, we got clearance to begin our descent and approach. So we took it off autopilot. We were scanning half a dozen instruments or so as we were monitoring our altitude, our rate of descent, our engine power, and so forth to make sure we arrived at the appropriate altitude as we got close to the ship. So we'd descend and would begin circling at 1,000 feet. When our time came, approach control would tell us to begin our approach. We had a very specific approach that ensured separation between various aircraft because they were probably landing 2 or 3 dozen aircraft in sequence, about 40 seconds apart. So the procedure was we would line up behind the aircraft in front of us and we would go through what we called the break. We would fly over the ship at about 300 knots at just 600 feet above sea level. Once we passed the bow of the ship, we would turn into a 60-degree angle of bank turn to turn downwind about a mile on the port side of the ship. During that time, we would drop the landing gear. We would drop the flaps. We would drop the tail hook. In naval aviation, there's actually a hook on the back of the aircraft that engages with a cable when we touch down that pulls the aircraft to a stop because there's not near enough room to land and stop an aircraft on its own on a carrier flight deck. As we approached, we became much more focused. We were only looking at a few instruments and monitoring our position relative to the ship. As we passed the stern of the ship, we would begin another turn and we'd be judging our altitude and our position relative to the ship to roll out behind the ship on glide path and lined up with the runway center line. The runway center line was critical because when we landed, we only had about 2 feet of wingtip clearance from aircraft that were parked alongside the landing zone. We had to be on glide path because we had to land within a few feet of the center of those 4 cables across the deck and grab one of them with our tail hook. Most important, we also had the angle of attack. The focus was so critical that there wasn't time to look down here at the instrument panel, so they actually mounted an angle of attack indicator on top of the glare shield that indicated if you were on the proper angle of attack, which related to our airspeed, or were too fast or too slow. If we get too slow, the aircraft can stall and it'll just fall out of the sky. Too fast, we're not going to be able to keep ourselves on the glide path. Now, the glide path, we use something called a meatball. It was a light that was between a row of green datum lights, and we were to keep it right at the same level as the green lights. If it was above the green lights, then we were too high. We would never engage the wires because we would fly right over them before we touched down. If that meatball was too low, we were in serious danger of crashing into the back of the ship because we weren't high enough to clear the ramp. So we were sitting there with a focus in an area about the size of a hand in front of the face where we could see the meatball, our lineup, and airspeed or angle of attack all at the same time. Very intense focus. We are told that when a fighter pilot comes back from air-to-air combat, his heart rate as he is landing is actually faster than his heart rate when in combat, when people are shooting at him. That's how intense the focus is on these landings. So, why are we talking about this anyway, and what does it have to do with business or real estate or any other entrepreneurial activity? Well, I've had a number of different positions within 2 multinational companies since I got out of the Navy, and in every case, having a good solid procedure that works every time and focusing on what is important at whatever stage of the process I am in has served me well in every single thing I did. Let's take real estate, for example, but this can apply to any business that you're running. In real estate, I run a team of about 6 agents. I buy about or otherwise acquire about 400 leads every month. Well, you know what? If 400 people bought in 1 month, I'd retire the next month because I'd be done. Out of those 400 leads, we might sell 10 homes, okay? And it might be a year or 2 for a lot of these leads before they're ready to buy. So we've got these 400 new leads plus the 11,000 that have come in over the 18 plus years I've been in real estate. I can't focus on 11,000 leads or even the 400 that came in. So we have a procedure where we narrow our focus as time goes on. We start out, we call those 400 leads, call them, text them, email them 8 or more times. If we make contact, we put them on our hot list. If we never make contact in that time, we just set them aside. Now, if they log into our website again, we put them back on our hot list and we're focused more on them. Now, eventually, these leads will be, if they're out of town, they'll be making a trip into town, or if they're in town, they'll have picked out some homes they like, and we need to take them out and show them homes, learn from what they are looking at, what they like and don't like about the homes we show, what they like and don't like about the area, how far they are from work, hospitals, other things that are important to them. And we are more focused on those leads. This is like, okay, we're at the ship now and we're waiting for our turn to make our approach and landing, but we are not ultra focused because we probably have a few dozen leads in this status. Once they choose a house and we write an offer, Now our focus intensifies. We have probably only 3 or 4 people in that stage at a time, and we're spending lots of time on them writing offers, negotiating contracts, then having the home inspected, negotiating repairs, and so forth. So it becomes more intense. This is like we're in the landing pattern now, but we're not on final. Then as we get very close to meeting at the attorney's office to close, that's like we're on final approach, and we're only focused on 2 or 3 things that are still outstanding. Maybe we don't have final closing authority from the bank. Maybe a repair is still outstanding, hasn't been completed yet. So we're ultra focused at that time. So this is how procedures and focus apply to any important thing you're doing, whether it's landing on an aircraft carrier, selling real estate, running a Wendy's restaurant, or a cabinet company, or a multinational corporation. If you would like a free 30-minute consultation to discuss these issues as they apply to your business, whether it's your real estate or you're some kind of other entrepreneur, I'll be glad to meet with you. Click on or scan the QR code or call me at the phone number at the end of this video, and I'll be happy to donate 30 minutes of my time to see how I can help you.